Good morning. I'm so glad to see all your faces this morning. My name is Phyllis Newbill. I am the Associate Director of Educational Networks in the Center for Educational Networks and Impacts within ICAT. I want to welcome you all this morning. We are videoing this morning, so this instrument here in the middle is a 360 camera, so not only am I on camera, but so are you, and your image will exist online afterwards, so please behave accordingly. Just wanted to let you know that. Good morning to our friends who are watching online. So glad you're here as well. Do like and subscribe when you have a minute. There is a clipboard somewhere in this room, and if you haven't signed in yet, we'd love for you to do that, because that is how we justify donuts and coffee, which is one of the many fun things about an ICAT Playdate. There are donuts and coffee. Please enjoy. When you have questions, if you're online, if you'll just click that question link and put it in the form, we will get to your question as soon as we can. If you're in the room, just wait for me to get to you with the mic so that our friends online will be able to hear you. If PDN credit is helpful to you, make sure that you see me and get that credit checked off. I will give you 100% for your presence this morning. If you're watching us online this morning, send me an email or put a note in the questions to let me know that you're watching. Announcements this morning. Applications are open right now for the Virginia Tech Science Festival and Hokie for a Day. So if you've got an exhibit that you'd like to share with kids or the public or fifth graders, and you have either a Wednesday morning or Saturday, November 11th available, we'd love to have you as part of that. And some student grants are due very soon. I'm looking for Holly. Student grants are due this week. Very close. If you are looking for some ICAT funding and you're working on that grant, make sure you get that in soon. That's all. This morning, our presentation is part of the Center for Educational Networks and Impacts. This is a project with Matt Wolf, Kang Xia, Ashley Postumus, and Lisa McNair. And so I'm going to turn it over to them. Some really fascinating stuff is happening with precision produce, climate change, and that's not their title, adapting to climate change, embracing that transformation. So Lisa, I'll let you take it from here and hold your questions until the end. Lisa.
Thanks, Phyllis. Hi, I'm Lisa McNair, and I have to make notes for myself to tell you who I am. I'm professor in engineering education, deputy director of ICAT, and former director of CENI, the Center for Educational Networks and Impacts. There we go. I say former because I'm very happy to announce that we have a new interim director, Jake Gross. Hi, Jake. Thanks for coming. And a soon-to-be postdoc, Hannah Glisson, who, congratulations, Hannah, if you're watching, on what I hear is a very strong defense day before yesterday. Yay. So Center for Educational Networks and Impacts, you may have heard of us before, primarily in the K-12 outreach arena. We do the Science Festival, and we also do Hokie for a Day field trips. We also have a fabulous educator liaison network with educators, teachers in school systems in Radford, Giles, Pulaski, and Floyd. We also have liaisons in the Science Museum of Western Virginia in Roanoke and Wonder Universe, other higher education centers across the state in Roanoke, Think-A-Bit, and Reynolds Homestead, and more. So that is what we usually do today. We're looking at I'm presenting with my colleagues a different kind of outreach. So with me today is Kang Xia from the center. She's the director of the Center for Advanced Innovation in Agriculture. Matt Wolf on the screen, who is the director of VT ARC in Arlington, Virginia. And Ashley Postumus over there, who is with the Center for Economic and Community Engagement, CC. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Matt at this point so that he can explain to you the background of this study, and then we'll go from there to tell you how we got there.
Great, next slide. Great. Well, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I very much appreciate everyone's time this morning. Hope you have a belly full of donuts and are ready to hear a little bit about climate change in agriculture. So just as a little bit of background and really to explain the motivation for this project, we're showing here some of the impacts climate change can have on agriculture. And on the left-hand side, you see just as an example, vegetable yield and quality. Climate change actually hits many different areas, both directly and indirectly, starting at the top, some direct effects that are really what define climate and climate change, you know, temperature and things of that nature, but all the way down to these factors that can reduce yield and quality, such as pest diseases and weeds and pollutants that are all impacted by the factors that are listed above. And just as an example of the size and scope of the problem of climate change, is this quote on the right-hand side where they're talking about California in 2022, the impacts of the drought there. At the time, they're looking at, you know, problems with irrigation water, and the idea there is that for every acre of vegetable production that is lost because of this irrigation problem, 50,000 salads are not available. So that's sort of the direct loss per acre. But if you extrapolate that out to the total expected loss of acreage out in California, you're looking at 691,000 acres. Do the math, it brings you over 1 billion salads. So this is not a minimal impact or effect from climate change and the factors there that are shown on the left. And that's really what brought us all together to work on this project is sort of how do we tackle this large, complex problem and specifically its impacts on agriculture. Next slide, please. So we started tackling this problem through a program that's relatively new called the NSF Convergence Accelerator Program. It's in NSF's new Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships Directorate. If you haven't heard of that, it's a whole new directorate. And it's really driven by producing an impact on society by tackling such large problems. And they're using an approach, which of course is in the title, convergence, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in a moment. That's an important word, and also accelerator. Again, these are not just random chosen words. This is a very fast-paced program, and hence acceleration. So our project, as part of this program, is we had to come up with a name, tagline, logos, things of that nature. You can see that here. We call our team and our project Precision Produce. And grow more with precision is our tagline. And so you'll see that as a theme in some of the conversations we have that follow here. Next slide, please. So to kick things off, we're going to start with a video, and this could give you a little bit of an overview of what we're doing, and then we'll dive in a little bit deeper in some subsequent slides. So please go ahead with the video.
Vegetable growers in the United States experience between 15 and 30% in product losses due to pests, disease, and irrigation issues. For example, we spoke with a local small farm that grows tomatoes, and just as an example of the importance of timely decision making, by the time that they realized that they had an outbreak of mites within their greenhouses, their tomatoes in the greenhouses, they had lost 2.5 greenhouses worth of tomatoes. Precision Produce is the name of our Convergence Accelerator program team name. And what it is a program that we've designed to address food security, starting in Virginia, but then scalable throughout the United States. What we're doing in Precision Produce is developing technology and precision agriculture capabilities. We're also creating a construct that will promote technology adoption by our customers. So Precision Produce is developing precision agriculture capabilities, and the flagship of those capabilities is a software application. It will be a web-based and secure application that takes field-level data and integrates it with publicly available data, commercially available data, such as satellite imagery and other sources, and uses machine learning to develop and provide diagnostic and prescriptive maps for the grower. What this does is allow them to visualize on their farm where these issues such as pest and disease outbreaks will be occurring. And it will also suggest make recommendations as to how to treat those different diseases and pests. Our technical team, what we found is to take on a challenge such as this we had to have a diverse technical team in. So we brought together agronomists, entomologists, plant pathologists, as well as computer scientists and those who are skilled at data collection in the field. They've all come together to design and develop a secure web-based application. So for growers, we're making the application very simple to use. You don't have to be highly trained or a highly technical individual. However, that being the case, we also recognize that many growers are tech averse, and so that adoption of technology, even as simple as it may have been created for the user, can be a challenge. And so that has introduced us to another aspect of the program, which is to create opportunities to train labor through things such as developing apprenticeship programs. We're in the process of developing a precision agriculture technician apprenticeship program. We're working with the Department of Labor and Industry in Virginia. And we're also developing STEM events so we can reach the K through 12 and the future farmers of the United States and get them to more readily adopt technology as precision agriculture becomes more and more popular. So our value proposition, we're forecasting crop issues and making recommendations before costly problems arise on the farm. So if we can get out ahead of what the farmer can see before the problems become too late to address, that will result in cost savings, increased yields, and fewer chemicals. Climate change is increasingly straining vegetable production in the United States, and the availability of nutritious foods is at stake. So grow more with precision.
Okay. Go to the next slide, please. All right, thank you. So that just is a sort of a summary, and actually what's important about this program, particularly if you're interested in pursuing a program, that video was a requirement. So you can see it's a little different than a lot of the other research projects that you all might be involved in through the NSF. So there's definitely a marketing component. But just to hit the program again at a little bit higher level on some of the sort of the philosophy behind the program. It's very much, we mentioned convergence and bringing these different groups together and diverse perspectives together, but it's also very much use-inspired and application-oriented. And what that really means is get out there, and you'll hear more about this from our colleagues here, but talk to the users and understand their problem sets and making sure that we're addressing a pain point. But also then developing and delivering an application or, what is it that's going to make the impact? It's less about publishing and pursuing science for science's sake for others to build off of, but rather to really focus this project on delivering. So it is fed by basic research, of course, which is why we have a large part of our team from academia. But it is composed of other partners from across the different sectors, including government and industry and other nonprofits. And it's a very fast-paced program, which I mentioned earlier. So as you can perhaps gather from the video in the conversation thus far, that it's very use-inspired. And we're going to hear more from our colleagues here coming up in just a moment. I'll turn it over to, I believe, Kong is next. To talk a little bit more about what we're doing and how we're creating the teams and functioning. We started in January, so it's been about 9 months now, or 8 months that we've been through this program. So she'll talk a little bit more about that and some of the early use-inspired work that we did. Ashley will be commenting on that. So let me turn it over to Kong.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, next slide. Like Mike said, that this program's going on for 9 months. As you can see, that it's a daunting task of having this large group together within 9 months and then also produce results. So our team is convergent and dynamic. So like Matt said, that we have a large number of people with different expertise on our team. And actually, 2 of the major players here, Brian Meyer from Sangani Center, who is dealing with machine learning modeling aspect, and then we have Brendan Hernan from Center for GIS Interface, that's right? And so we have other people that not here, but in agronomy, plant pathology, and then we have Lisa and Ashley that in the working group that under the community engagement outreach, as you can see here. So we have 3 groups that we don't work in silo. We communicate with each other constantly, so it's dynamic. As you can see, the arrow flowing different directions, and then we talk to each other. So we have the technical working group, community engagement and outreach working group, and cross-cutting working group. So now, one nice thing about being in this program is that NSF offer to us innovation curriculum. And so we learned team science, we learned communication, and they train us on human-centered design. And so the nice video that Matt just shown is actually one of our homework. And we have to do that. That's our pitch. We have to learn as scientists. My background is environmental chemistry, so this is a brand new thing. How do you pitch your idea to the users? So I have gained a lot from that exercise. I'm sure my teammates the same. So, okay, so I just want to give you just a brief introduction that the take-home message from participating in this program is that traditionally the way we do research is that we start with the data collection and the scientists collect data, and then we look at, what kind of information can we extract out of it? And then we feed the information to the users, and we tell them that this is what you can use, this is what you do in terms of decision making. Now, what NSF, this curriculum, and then this project, they want to emphasize is basically you reverse engineer this flow by starting with talking with the users, see really what they need, right? And then we go back to see, okay, well, what kind of data can we collect so that we can address their need, and what kind of information can we extract out of the data we collect, and then go back to their decision, the user, help their decision making. So it's very much user-centered. So instead of going, left to the right, and we go from the right to the left, and then circle back. So it's a constant dynamic pattern in this case. So that leads to the importance of the work by the community engagement and outreach working group. And so next, Ashley is going to talk about their work in terms of getting the user involved. Thank you.
Thanks, Kong. So like Kong said, and like Matt highlighted, user engagement has really been an integral part of this project. In our role at the center that I work at was mainly to lead and participate in user-inspired research. And for those who are unfamiliar with the concept or the term, it's really research that's driven by potential users of precision produce. They are behind the rationale for the project. They drive the conceptualization and really the research decisions that drive the project forward. So we have done multiple engagement activities that include things like virtual interviews with extension agents, with farmers, with consultants. We've also done a number of in-person visits to visit the farms, understand their operations, and get to know their challenges and opportunities for technology. We've also been to a number of AREC field days, training events, agriculture expos that kind of have the same kind of participants and attendees. And we've also issued surveys and just had some free-form discussions, again, to learn about issues and challenges in ways that our technology can kind of help mitigate some of those challenges that they're encountering. Next slide, please. So what we found in our research and talking with folks is that egg adoption, especially for small-scale vegetable growers, which is kind of the type of farms that we're interested in helping right now, they are kind of inundated with and bogged down by a lot of data. And if they do have the ability to capitalize on technology or are interested in adopting technology, they don't know what to do with all these massive amounts of data that's available, or do they have time to really delve into all the things that they can use the technology for. So that is where we hope to come in with Precision Produce to take advantage of all this data that's available. Next slide, please. So through our user-inspired research, we've been using this low-fidelity prototype, which is just a fancy term for a mock-up of basically what the technology could potentially look like. And essentially, it's a tool in our outreach process to provide kind of a visual example of how our technology could work. We can use this mock-up in our interviews and at events to explain our concept and basically get technology feedback and refinement. So for example, within our application here, there is a mapping feature, for example, that can produce a number of different maps using the data that's available and that's been collected and run through this machine learning. And we'd ask questions in these interviews and at these events, is this a useful feature? Are these maps helpful towards your farming operation? What would you change? What would you add? What do you like? What do you dislike? And this would kind of help get at some of the challenges that we've been hearing from researchers that would help with disease management or pest management, for example. Next slide. So the data that's going to be posted up here, you can just put it all up. This is a snapshot of some of the results that we received from a survey that was issued to about 30 extension agents at a Virginia State University training event that we attended. And one thing that I just want you to take away from these responses was that no one said forecasting is not important. Like as you can see from this last pie graph on my right. But it is something that isn't being done. So this is one major thing that we are trying to tackle. We are trying to mitigate those pest and disease challenges that we've heard, but we are also trying to mitigate one other challenge that we heard, which is labor, which is workforce development. So through this technology, in the right hands, with the right support and the right resources, we could not only help current farmers use this technology, but also train the future farmers that are interested in agriculture and technology, kind of capitalize on all this data and opportunity that's available.
Thanks. Note to self on slide design, when you have somebody zooming in, have a little dedicated square so that your headline is not blocked. But anyway, further themes, Ashley just talked about the labor and next generation workforce issue came up a lot from farmers. So a lot of the labor that works on the farm is H2A. Uh-oh, that's Slack. Sorry. Also note to self, close all other applications. That's somebody saying good morning on Slack, probably. Good morning. Okay. Labor. Lots of it comes from Mexico, other countries. People come back to the same farms for literally generations, so decade after decade, and farmers value this labor very much. It is only part of the year, so these workers have to go back to where their home is, and they don't always have their families with them. So we have a skilled set of workers, but not all the year. Another issue is that children are looking around at the economy. They're looking at the really, really hard work that has gone into farming with their parents and grandparents and aren't necessarily continuing on the family farm. At the same time, we do have this kind of new generation of small and medium farmers, and one of the things that happened in the pandemic was large cities like Washington, D.C., Arlington, had a really hard time getting fresh vegetables unless they had a farmer's market and a local farm. So, and if you look back at the early quote that Matt showed about California and the drought, sort of that issue becomes an opportunity in other places in the country for small and medium farmers. You can see some of the quotes that we have here from users that we talked to, and this is some early feedback on the actual prototype that we're showing people on an iPad and sort of fake stepping through it, as the visual aspect was really helpful. Again, what Ashley mentioned about the time to sift through all the data, so the predictive piece would also be useful. So our workforce development arcs all the way from K-12 to career. And we are really wanting to focus on K-12 awareness and then CTE education that leads into community college education, and we're also developing a program that will be approved by the Department of Labor and Industry as an apprenticeship that crosses state lines in terms of certification. And the list there is a partial list of the kinds of skill sets and paths into a precision agriculture career or workforce that are available. And just to close things out, full circle, K-12 is where it starts, promoting awareness. And through this project, we've gained a lot of partners that we've worked with before, but we're all together, and we're looking at 4-H, Future Farmers of America, AREX, different field days, arts and science fairs, museums, Hokie for a Day field trips, and the science festival. So, Phyllis, I wrapped it all the way around. And here's our expanded team. At the end of 8 months, we've expanded to add more nonprofits, as well as some centers and Pulaski County Public Schools. Thanks very much.
Well, many thanks to all the team members for presenting this morning. We have a few minutes for questions, so does anybody have questions in the room, or if you have them online, just put them into the question link. What questions do you have for these fine researchers? Let me get to you. I'll hold the mic.
Oh, you hold it, thank you. What is the cross-cutting working group responsible for?
So our cross-cutting group, they focus on the security issue of, we're dealing with a lot of data analytics, data science, on the farm. And so one issue they're addressing is the cyber biosecurity issue. And they are working with also the educational component and the technical group. So they're cross-cutting things that not necessarily the centerpiece of or a technical group or the outreach and engagement group, but they're linking everyone together. So that's why we call them cross-cutting. Yeah, but one of their major focus is cyber biosecurity issue.
Thank you. We have time for maybe one more. Quiet group this morning. You all covered all the things. All right, well, we'll wrap it up then. I hope you all have a fantastic and beautiful weekend. Please, I hope you'll think about how all these different, all the different disciplines are working together to solve these big problems. And if you came in a little later and would like to have PDN credit, see me before you go. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Thank you, team.
Thank you.